A Hunter in Teyvat, Chapter 112, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. Once I linked up with Shenhe and Ei, we quickly made our way out of the palace, and in order to avoid the Tricommission trying to throw a celebration or something to send off Ei, we quickly flew away from Liyue upon my favorite summon in the Anemo Elemental. The ride to Liyue itself was uneventful, with Ei getting rid of the storm she had previously summoned to surround Inazuma to dissuade people from entering the island chain. "I am looking forward to meeting my friends after being separated," I said with a small smile crossing my face as I imagined Eula and Lumen hopefully being happy to have me back after the month of being separated. Hell, I even missed Paimon a good bit. But Shenhe, hearing me, perked up and said with some curiosity, "Aren't you mad at Lumen at all for selling you off to help me on my mission?" My lips twitched at the reminder of that, and I shook my head, and taking a deep breath I said calmly, "Lumen fleeced Rex Lapis of a metric ton of Mora. I understand why she did it, and I will have my own form of revenge when it's convenient." Ei, who was meditating as we sat down on the platform of Anemo Energy, then asked curiously, "What was the mission, if you don't mind me asking?" I gave Shenhe a look, and she smiled before saying, as though it wasn't any big deal, "After an attack on Liyue by the Abyss Order and the Fatui, who released one of the gods defeated during the Archon War, I was sent to check on that defeated god's mate, who was still free and almost always hiding deep within the ocean." Shenhe took a breath and then said honestly, "We were sent to engage with the goddess Beast, and after some issues, Jake and I killed her, skinned her divine serpent scales, and I made Jake soup out of its blood, bone marrow, gallbladder, and heart." Shenhe finished proudly, with Ei nodding like the sociopath she was. With Ei finishing her nod, and said with agreement in her tone, "A wonderful tonic for a growing warrior, to be sure. Do you have any other reagents left from the divine serpent?" she asked conversationally. I smiled weakly and said, "Yeah. I still have a lot of her bones in my spatial store. Oh, and her soul is still within my own, but seemingly eternally locked into sleep due to how badly her soul was mangled by Celestia's erosion. And even with Ei's body being that of a puppet. It was funny how expressive she could be as she woodenly opened her eyes with lightning flickering with them as she chewed on her words, and asked quietly, Is she anywhere near Makoto inside you?" She stuttered at the end, obviously not sure how to classify me. As being a mobile hotel for all the damned half-dead goddesses I have been running into. Meant that I wouldn't be surprised if I started becoming a demigod myself, with how their own power was going to naturally leak back into me. Either way, I smiled as I looked within myself to see the eastern beauty that was Beast was in her own corner of my soul, just sleeping silently, having not moved a literal inch besides when Guizhong moved her. But to put Ei at ease, I said, "She should be fine. For now at least, and in the worst case Guizhong and Makoto can easily subdue her should I suppress her with my own soul." Ei, hearing my words, closed her eyes before she solemnly nodded in agreement with her, saying quietly, "Very well. I am well aware that the interior of a person's soul will be much stronger than outside." We kept flying for a while until Shenhe broke the silence to ask me somewhat sheepishly, Jake, when we reach Liyue we will need to begin heading over to my master cloud retainer. I imagine she is probably upset that I did not return directly after dealing with Beast." "Oh. Burb Mommy will probably be upset," I thought with a wry smile, but I just shook my head and said with a nod, "All right, sounds good. We will do that." And for the rest of the flight, we remained silent as I concentrated on flying faster and pushing my aura into the Anemo hypostasis to increase its flying speed. Not too much longer later we saw the coastline of Liyue, and after a while longer we followed the coastline to the port of the city of Liyue, and I flew us directly into my backyard without hesitation. The moment I unlocked the door and pushed it open, I could smell a hearty stew cooking, and only stopping to kick off my shoes I strode into my house directly into the kitchen, and as I came into the kitchen I saw my lover. Lumen was standing over the stove working at the stew she was obviously making, and I carefully walked up and she sharply inhaled as I wrapped my arms around her, being careful to make sure she didn't pull the large stewing pot off the oven as I pushed my face into her hair. "Missed you. I said simply as my arms tightened around her chest and she leaned up against me with her ass pushing against my waist teasingly as she lifted up a hand to my arms to hold her hand atop the arms. And in turn, she whispered softly. I missed you as well, Jake. Now be a good boy and let me turn around. She put down the large spoon she was using to stir the stew and I let go of her so she could turn around, and Lumen giggled as I wrapped an arm around her waist and picked her up to put her on one of the kitchen counters beside the oven as we could gently kiss one another in greeting. After a brief kiss, I heard the door to the house closing as Ei and Shenhe finally caught up, so I broke the kiss and, while looking into Lumen's golden eyes, I was honest and said, Lumen, my darling, my love, I bring us new lovers. Lumen's eyes widened in shock as Ei the Electro-Archon and Shenhe walked into the living room with Liyue calling out with excitement as Paimon hurriedly flew down the hallway into the main room. Jake, is that you? To which I smiled and called out happily. Eula, Paimon, I am home.